Good morning, everybody, and it's Teepa, and I have with me partners from Roon. Actually, I have Vikram. Morning, Vikram.
Hi, Teepa. I'm so excited to do this with you bright and early on Monday. Thank you for hosting us. Actually, not bright and early because it looks like apparently Teepa has already done her hot yoga. So this is probably her fourth session for the day. It's my first.
Yeah. I've been going for a while, which is
Yeah.
not unusual for care partners. I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of those realities of being in the world of dementia. Often, your work schedule, your life schedule, your day schedule could be really different than other people's. And so that's one of the amazing things. I've been working with Roon. And you guys, when did you start? Because I mean, you started before I started, but not too long before I started. How long have you guys been working the Roon system
Yeah.
here?
So for everyone watching, our vision at Roon is to really be the best guide to navigate dementia in your pocket, world experts answering all questions that you might have in the journey. We started the company about 2 years ago, but the dementia app, which you can check out on roon.com and on the App Store, has been live for about 6 months actually. And
About 6 months. Seems
yeah,
longer. I guess we recorded things for a bit before we went live. That was
yeah,
it.
exactly.
And the cool part for me about Roon is it is based on short snippets. Ask a question, get a response. And you guys have gone around and gotten a number of experts' responses to some questions, including people living with dementia. So it's not just people who are medical providers, not just social support system people, not just people who are care partners, and not just people like me, but people living with dementia who are on that other side of the equation often and are often let out of conversations.
Yeah,
So, I mean, to me, that's when you really have a panel of people because not everybody matches up with everybody.
yeah.
I try my best in the sessions that I offer to give a very common kind of scenario that might be the case. And then on the other side of it, say, well, here's some opportunities if you build some skill set or awareness set. And then sometimes what I'm doing is just sort of some awareness or knowledge building.
Yeah,
So
Teepa, I think to that point, one thing that was so important for us building this is, health communities exist online, and very often you're just hearing from other caregivers. And then doctors and professionals you have very limited access to in a clinical setting. What's really special about Roon is we wanted to fuse both those in one place. So as a busy caregiver that's up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., you don't
or
have
4:30 or
or
all night
4:30 or all
because you
night.
got
You
an issue
don't
going on.
Yeah, you don't have to go to two places, go to 10 places. You have all of it in one place. And we've just learned that very often questions you might have, let's say about home health aides or how do I manage a hard behavioral situation at home? The only person who's equipped to answer that is someone in the trenches. And then maybe, treatments for Alzheimer's, the latest drug development, the only person who should answer that is an MD. And so we like to put those two together and really fuse the community knowledge, knowledge of lived experience with expert-based content. So you
Yeah.
got that absolutely right, Teepa.
Yeah, so this has been going on now for 6 months, and you've had some great outcomes. I mean, you've got people who are very satisfied with some of the work, and you redid some things. What's cool about Roon, they never stand still, they never stop, they never go, oh, well, that's great, we're done now. It's like it's constantly evolving. And one of the new evolutions is you can actually, there's a newer home screen. I will say that because we gave feedback on the home screen and so you guys made some changes. Good job. And then you did an update. So if y'all have been using Room some and you haven't done an update recently, you'll want to do an update for sure.
Yeah.
But now you can ask a question. So I can spontaneously ask a question. So let me just, oh, now, Vikram, you're going to actually do a share the screen, right? Because I'm
Yeah,
going to come up,
absolutely.
but me holding this up is going to be sort of iffy. I'm just
Yeah,
going to tell you that.
can everyone see my screen?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to do it verbally, okay? Because I have the potential to do it verbally. So my question is going to be, how can I take care of my own needs as a care partner, as a
And Teepa,
caregiver?
while you're doing that, I can ask
Yeah.
the question you asked, So how can I
Oh, you're typing. I'm faster. I asked.
own needs as a caregiver question mark.
How can I, and it even says, oh, by the way, oh, you can't do it while you're talking. It even says start with a how or a what or a
Yeah.
why kind of question. So it asks you to start with that. So it's easier. So here we
Absolutely.
go.
So what Teepa just showed you was, a very common question that caregivers have. A few things, and I'll just do it again so everyone knows exactly where this is. The entry point here, this is Roon. Whoops, there we go.
See, that would be what I did, Vikram. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly. I went
you
back.
know, it's good to know it's not just me.
Yeah, and we made it really accessible. It's this big thing you can see. I think, it's called Ask the Question. And you put in your question here. You
Oh,
hit
but wait, now, before you did that, go back, Vikram, because I thought that was a really cool thing. You even give a prompt, start with what, how, why. You want
exactly.
to start with where can or how can or why should, kinds of questions. So you start it as an actual question because it helps the system then figure out what you're looking for. And it
Absolutely.
gives you that kind
Teepa
of answer.
is you're so astute there because for us it's much easier when you ask a question to rec our entire system is questions and answers.
Sure
Uh,
enough is.
And then when you ask a question here, you hit ask. Now, a few things are happening here, and I just want to walk you through. So first is really the thinking behind the thinking. We wanted to make sure that you get an instant answer, right? So much of the experience of healthcare is waiting for a doctor, waiting for people to get back to you. We all have been there. And so we have been bold and we're calling this instant answer because we want to be respectful of your time as a caregiver. And so our vision is imagine if you can get an answer in less than 3 seconds, and that's what you saw. The next thing that's important to note is we know some people are readers, some people like video. We're combining both here. So first and foremost, you get an actual written answer, and then we tell you where the answer is sourced from. And this is really important. If any of you have used Google or ChatGPT, there are so many different sources on the internet. Very often they're not medically vetted. The tax of trying to figure out what is a valid source and what is not falls on you, the caregiver. But we've taken the time and effort to really curate a list of experts like Teepa. And so when you read this answer, it's only referencing world experts. So Dr. Jerry Johnson, who's a famous neurologist he was at Penn. It's referencing Fearon Epps here. And so what makes this special is that it's not all of the internet, it's just the handpicked experts we've worked with. And then it gives you a multi-perspective response, right? Imagine if you kind of want to know what Jerry said and you want to know what Kate said, but like, what did they both say together that may be useful for you as a caregiver? And so this answer here is a multi-perspective response. You can go, if you're like, hey, I like text, but I actually want to see his face and I want to understand the human behind the human. In this case, it's Fearon here. You can actually see what Fearon Epps has said and then other questions people ask. Very often, we know that most people don't know the questions to ask. They think, I've been a caregiver myself. I didn't know where to start with my dad. And so this is giving you other related questions that you might be interested in based on this question. And so if I click here, boom, and you can see our AI working its magic here. So in that 1 second, we've looked at the database of thousands of questions, thousands of experts, and given you a real answer. And again, for Anchor, the anchor is trust. Our whole service is based on trust. Who are these people behind the question? And you can learn more about them. And so yeah, and AI here is working its magic. It's so important for us. We don't want to fall in love with the technology. AI is really subordinate to the Teepas of the world, right? We are summarizing your work, but it's all about showcasing you. Unlike most of the internet where people are in love with AI chatbots and all of that. But if you're a caregiver, it's so important that a trustworthy answer is at the center. So I'll pause there. Would love to.
Yeah. So what's really cool about this particular, how do I, how much time am I going to have to commit to caregiving? So what we have is we have some answers, and over on this third one, this is one that people, and the reality is I may not have even thought of that idea, like how much time. But this answer is, how do I avoid getting fired by my employer while being a caregiver? So that's something that for people who are living this life, all of a sudden it's like, oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because we know that being present at work is actually a problem when this caring starts to raise itself up and phone calls are happening and I need to step away and there's an emergency. And so being aware of that possibility could keep you from getting into it. So, I mean, this is where I see it as not only I have a question, I get some answers, but it also may prompt me as a carer to go, or a person living with, or a professional to go, oh, I hadn't thought of that. Ooh, well, I wonder if in my next session with Mary, I should say, hey, Mary, how are you doing at work? Would you say it's going super sort of this way? Or have you heard some ideas that things are not, you're having some trouble? And what's really great about this is it can serve as a third party when it is hard to schedule time with a provider or hard to schedule time for a support group or hard to schedule time with a peer group. It allows you to really recognize, wow, there's lots of different ways I could address this. But it's not just about that. I mean, there are other questions you could ask. Like, for instance, how do I know whether a home health aide is a good match for my person? How do I know if a home health aide is a good match for my person? Because that's not the question you put down for me, is it, Deborah?
You're gonna break the system. Let's see if this works.
Let's see if I break it. Yeah,
So
because I made it a little different.
yeah, please. Let's see.
Let's see.
Boom. Yeah, actually, we have an answer.
Huh. See, there you go. So I know I scare you a little bit when I go off script, but the good news is your system does work. Because if I always just used exactly what somebody else said, then this wouldn't be as effective. The reality is this came up with what I came up with. Like, what's the difference? What's the difference between a home health aide and a companion? I mean, I don't know whether that'll give us anything, but if it doesn't, here's what I know Roon will do. Give me a related answer.
Yeah.
And then it will put the question in the box that says, next time Teepa's available, guess what the next experts, we're going to get people to answer this because we've heard it from multiple people now.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's a really important stuff. And actually before that, Teepa, if you like, I'm just reading some evaluating the humanity of the caregiver's fundamental kindness, understanding, honesty, and the ability to ask questions are essential qualities to look for in a home health aide. Ensuring that the aide is emotionally connected to your loved one, engages in conversation, and shows interest in their hobbies can contribute to a positive relationship. What I love about this is pulling from these answers, but it's not just a checklist, right? It's getting to that emotional side of the connection between a home health aide and how important that is. Teepa, let's try your other question, which is
what's the difference between a home health aide and a companion?
And what Teepa's alluding to is if we don't have an answer to this question, you can vote it down and vote the answer down, and then our experts will look at it.
Oh,
boom, it looks like we have something. Yeah. So, according to a home health aide typically provides assistance with medical and personal care needs, And then on the other hand, a companion home health aide focuses more on companionship, social engagement. I don't know if I got it right. You be the judge. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good answer. I mean, and basically what it didn't say is one costs less than the other one. One's covered by Medicare, one may not be.
Yeah, and actually, if you look what yours does, Medicare cover long-term care. So we understand that cost is an interesting connection here, and it's alluding to the fact that cost is a dimension, and so and let's say, Teepa, if you don't like the answer, it's really important to point out, like, we'll never get it right always, and so you can say thumbs down and submit this question. And then our system, we have a team of folks, including doctors, public health experts. We will look at the questions that you answer, and then we'll say, hey, it's interesting. Most people don't like this answer. We need to go out and get a better answer to this question. And in that case, we might go back to some of our experts, or we might go back to a caregiver. We might go back to a social worker. We might go back to, a nurse and say, hey, we missed the mark here. Let's go get a better answer. And then we work with them to create a better answer. So over time, the system gets smarter. And so our goal, we've already become kind of the largest database of answers for dementia on the internet. So,
Cool. So here's an interesting phenomena. Matthew, who's keeping track of people out there, said some people might need a little more help with this update phenomena.
mhm.
So I'll share what I did,
Yep,
which is I had my phone and I have a iPhone,
yep.
and I went to my app. What is it? Oh, wait a minute. Let me see what it's called. You know me, I'm high tech. My
Mhm.
app store. I went to my app store and I went to all my apps. So I clicked on my profile and I looked down all my apps and I
Mhm.
saw Roon because I do have Roon already. If you don't, you can basically you can search, find Roon, and you want to find the right Roon. There is some other Roony
Yeah,
thing
we have
out there.
yep.
So you have to find the one that has that nice R on it.
Mhm.
And it's answers from doctors. It says answers from doctors. That's how it's labeled. And then you can open it. And when you open it, then it will tell you whether or not you need, I mean, it will let you know whether you need an update or not.
Absolutely.
I updated apparently because I didn't need help. Mine was happy with me. So I must have done
But there's
okay.
basically two ways to update your app. One is some of you might just automatically have updates. And so
Mhm.
if you open your app and you can see it won't say the word update. I think if just for everyone watching, just to make sure you have access to this, do exactly what Teepa says. So go to the App Store, search for Roon, and you click on the app and the word update shows up and it should update automatically. If you have any issues with signing in, support@roon.care is our email address. Either me or someone on our team will personally make sure you're in. And then it's worth noting that what I'm showing you is the desktop version. So for any of you that don't like an app or don't have the iOS, don't have an iPhone, you can go to roon.com, sign in, and use the desktop. We want to make sure. One of our biggest requests is Android, and we will have an Android app at some point later this year.
So, oh, that's exciting because I know some people that have been waiting. They've been
Yeah.
saying, "Well, when are you going to do it for Android?" And
Yeah.
I don't know. We have to ask Arun. I can't tell you because it's a whole different system development. I know
And then
that.
I do want to say, very often people don't have a question, right? You're just living it. It's really hard. You're just, hey, I'm stressed. I'm anxious. I don't have a specific question. And so, what I wanted to also show you is if you don't have a question, we have spent, countless hours packaging these guides for you. And very often you just don't even know what you don't know. So you may not know all the ways in which caregiver support comes to life. And so, for the non-question askers or the moments you don't have a question, browse, discover, explore, and hopefully you'll find interesting things here. And then the other thing you could also do is search. There sometimes people say, what's the difference between search and a question? But if you're just like, I just want to understand mental health, right? I don't have a question, but how do I manage? And then we'll basically come up with all the questions that are related to that. If you have a mental health specific question, you can ask a question, but know that we wanted to make it very accessible and there's many ways to find the content. We don't want you to be lost at sea, so to speak. The condition is already so hard. Roon should feel highly curated and personal to you.
Oh, so Vikram, of course, I'm going to throw a curve in here. You know
Of
how I am.
course, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to ask a question. Um, who is a person living with frontal temporal dementia?
Who is someone?
A
Yeah.
person living with frontal temporal dementia could learn from?
Ooh, this is the AP level question.
Yeah, I know. This is tricky, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, actually, I would give this A, maybe not A plus, but the first thing it does is actually points to the association for AFTD for
Yep.
education, which I think is really good, right? We know that AFTD is a trusted resource. Um, and frankly, that's what it does. But then it
Yep.
also, yeah, and yeah, you be the judge. I won't.
Okay, so let's look at the third one, how people in the FTD community help educate the public. Let's look over there. Let's see what they say. How can people in the FTD community?
Yeah, and I'll play this video if that's cool.
Yeah.
How can people in the FTD community help educate healthcare professionals and other members of the community? I think the easiest way to do this is just being honest of kind of what you're experiencing with your loved one, especially in the healthcare setting. Most of the times, especially in those early disease stages, the symptoms of FTD are very subtle and they're hard to maybe see from the outside in perspective. Obviously, the person living with.
Oh, so I'll pause because what I'm seeing is, oh, it's still one of those. So we're going to have to work on this one. This is a Teepa. I'm going to have to put in a question. I think we need a few people with FTD who don't have anosognosia. They are aware that they have changes to become experts so that they could be resources for other people with FTD. Because we certainly are aware in our community of people who meet that criteria. They've been around long enough. They have solid symptoms. It's not like they don't have FTD. It's just that they've been in and out of the system for a bit. They're very knowledgeable. And so they're actually very skilled and they are an advocate. And so what we may do is, oh, I just found something to help with then, because you never know. I mean, when we can be helpful with one another.
Yeah.
And that's where FTD usually gets a short shake because it is either language deficit and or thinking processing deficit. It can feel like, well, nobody with FTD could be an advocate. It's like, well, that's simply not true. We have many people in our world that can. It's just different. And so I think this may be one where I just arbitrarily pulled it up, but you know, it's one of those
Yeah,
things.
and I think I love
learn
that,
and do.
Teepa, and I think this only gets better with feedback like
Yeah.
that. You know? We do have an FTD guide just for those watching, and
Yeah.
it can always get better. And I think, you know, what we've also found, one of the other conditions we work on is ALS. And, you know, there's this really interesting connection between the two. And so
Sure enough is.
we've set at the nexus of both conditions and basically trying to get smarter on the whole space. So thank you for that push.
We are learning so much every week. I mean, that's the reality. And I just remembered that I have another expert I need to share out with you, which is someone who's living with posterior cortical atrophy, which is one of those atypical ones. And he's amazing. He gives us so many cool things because he has great insight into his world these days. And so it's really super wonderful to have him. So here we go. This is a never-ending process because the process is never-ending. However, what is now possible is way beyond how it started, because what folks are finding out is that in the moment, I need an answer right now. And I may want to hear a couple people talk about what's going on. I know that many of the things that I have done are situations about challenges, when you're in a challenging situation. So my answer for those kind of things tends to be more along the line of, you know, let's look at some of these situations. And so for self-care, one of mine is, are you breathing? Are you sure you're even breathing? Because I know that carers can sometimes get so stressed, they forget to breathe, and they forget that really can trigger a lot of brain dysfunction in them. And so remembering to take that breath and blow it all the way out before you start trying to think or do can make a huge difference. So yeah, I got a lot of stuff here. So
as you're talking, I wanted people to see just how impressive your answers and catalog are. You cover every edge case no one else covers. So
yeah. So I'm the boots on the ground kind of thing, working with folks. So here's the deal. You know, this only gets better when we participate. And I believe strongly in participation and improvement and satisfaction and celebration and acknowledgement. And I think what Roon is doing is pretty unique. I've not seen it elsewhere. People tend to go in one spot, one direction. If you're FTD, you're FTD. If you're Alzheimer's, you're Alzheimer's. If you're a physician, you're a physician. And this is bringing so many aspects together and allowing people to sort of look at these situations and be curious. and to raise up concerns, raise up questions, raise up responses. And you get to tell them whether it was helpful or not helpful. And if it wasn't helpful, what do you want to do about it? Because the answer is not to say, well, it didn't help. It's to say, well, that wasn't what I was looking for. This is what I'm looking for. And so the most interesting part about this for me is it's free. Who would have thought? This is absolutely free. There's no gimmick. It's not like if you sign up, then you have to pay after the first month or something like that. It is actually a free app. And that means there's a lot of work going on by a lot of people. And I happen to know that those people who started all this, they did it because they felt what was happening was not okay. It wasn't okay for people to go wherever to try to get info because they couldn't get info where it made sense. There isn't time. We acknowledge there is not time in healthcare to get what you need when you need it. Dementia happens in real time. ALS happens in real time. You don't want to be waiting somewhere for an answer that may or may not come when somebody is starting to have trouble breathing and you're not sure, is this an ER visit again, or what do I do? I mean, what are my options? And you can put some info in quickly and sort of know, yeah, this is an emergency, or yeah, did you check out that? Oh yeah, that's, oh, right. I forgot that because I was so revved up. So it's a place to go, not for crises, but crises happen. And it's also an opportunity to check yourself out. So Vikram, anything you want to add in closing? Because, I think good to know we've got a new piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, I would say just three things in closing. Firstly, we are so respectful of you, Teepa, the work you do. You're quite an amazing human, and we're so honored to just be in your orbit and be associated with you. Some of your content is the most watched on Roon, really, especially because you get into like the hardest questions around dementia care, and we really value that. I would say the second thing, as Teepa noted, the spirit of this launch and what we're doing is really about access and extending access to everyone here. And, we as a team, we only get better with feedback. And so we are working really, really hard to make the app better. Every day the app gets better. But if you have anything you don't like, we are here to serve you. My email is vikram@roon.care, VIKRAM @roon.care. I'm the CEO and co-founder. I will take your email. I will call you back. I'm here to serve you and really make sure this app is the best app as you navigate this journey. And the third thing I will say is, roon.com is the website. And if any of you listening are not our providers and you're like, hey, I think I can do a better answer to the one Teepa does. No, I'm just kidding, not you, but if like, hey, I think I have something in my head where I would contribute as a neurologist, as a geriatric psychologist, anyone in the audience as a provider, we're also always making the app better and looking for people. And then lastly, as Teepa mentioned, if you're living with any of the conditions, specifically with FTD, or, we really want to capture your perspectives. And so also reach out to us. And we're excited to make the app better and really be the best app. And I'll close where I started, which is our mission is to be really the best trusted guide for you in your journey. And we hope we can earn the right to do that.
Well, Vikram, thank you. And thanks everybody at Roon. And for everybody out there, take care with your care. Don't be afraid to ask. There are no stupid questions. There are questions, they mean your brain is activated. Let's see, figure out what the answer might be. Take care all.
Awesome. Thank you, Teepa.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. I'll stay on.